I literally changed my shirt for this video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Kyra and today I'm bringing to you a very special project. I took my ABH Norvina Collection palettes, volumes 1 through 4, and depotted them into this multi-layer Z palette. I currently have them in here according to the palettes that they started out in, but the entire reason for this project and for this video is so that I can reorganize them into color stories and color groups that make sense. If you haven't seen the ABH Norvina palettes before, I'll put a few up on the screen here for reference, but they are basically just thrown in there, just thrown in there willy-nilly style. And so today we're gonna make some sense of this so I can actually get some use out of these shadows. If you do follow my No Pan Left Behind, however, this will change things when it comes to this month's update. If you know, you know. But with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump in because I am so excited to do that. And the first layer, we have the first volume. This was the second to last palette I depotted, so I did a pretty darn good job if I do say so myself. No casualties in here. I mean, there was a tiny bit that came off that blue, but that's it. Also, I'm using a white towel today because we are going to get messy and I don't want to use my little woven placemat that I normally use. Here is volume 2, which is another favorite. This was the second one, and we did have one casualty here that it was the only one I had to repress, but it's fine, it's okay. This is the messiest and, you know, the one that I had the most casualties from, but it's possible I will just declutter those shades because it's like this bright yellow, this bright orange, and honestly, I don't use those colors very often anyways. And then lastly, and the last one I depotted because it's my favorite, is this one right here, which is volume 4. There are 2 less shadows in here than the other palettes because there's 2 pressed glitters in volume 4 and I don't use them on my eyes anyways. So I'm going to scoop the glitter out of those and save the pans for future projects. But with all of that said, I'm going to speed through this part, but I want to kind of break them up into their respective color groups, and then from there we can decide how we want to organize them into the palette. All right, so here we are. There's a lot going on here, and I kind of wanted to see everything laid out in terms of what I could and couldn't pair together or put together in the palette on each layer, and I'm still not sure. But there are a few shades that are similar enough that I'd like to swatch them, and if there's a lot of redundancy, then we can part with some of these. Let's start with the yellows. I'm not a big yellow eyeshadow person. This looks more green, doesn't it, next to these yellows? I don't know. Anyhoozle, I don't wear a lot of yellow eyeshadow, and so I want to swatch some of these out and see if there's any that are close enough to where we could let go of some, and especially like if we could let go of this little broken one, I'd be all right with that. That is a pretty brilliant primary yellow there. Well, I don't know, swatched out it looks primary, but not in the pan. But this one looks rather close. So Oh yeah, those are close enough. I'm gonna keep this one. I guess this is as good a time as any for me to show you how I labeled these. So what I did was I made these labels. So it says 2:A2. So this is from the second volume and the shade is A2. So that, I mean, simple, easy peasy. So we'll keep that yellow, and I definitely want to keep this yellow. It's really bright and it makes a nice matte inner corner highlight. I also feel like these two yellows are close enough, so let me swatch those. And yes, there's just eyeshadow absolutely everywhere, so you know, it's all good. It's fun to get messy sometimes. So here's the first, and here is the second. To me, those are close enough, but I think I like the second one better, just ever so slightly. So we're gonna part with that one, and that one gets to stay. This one, I'm not for sure. Maybe it should more so go with the oranges. Let's go with that theory. And then I'm definitely going to keep this one and this one. Let's kind of put these in order of brightness. And then we have these two shades. This is a very yellowy gold. Not really a shade that I personally need in my collection, but I do really like the light one next door. But I do think I'm gonna keep the yellow gold for now, just till I get everything in the palette and kind of work with them a little bit. But let's swatch these two. I forgot this one was hiding over by the purples. So let's swatch this against this and see how similar they are. Oh yeah, there's enough of a difference there. So we'll keep those as well. I'm gonna put our yellows over here. And this one honestly could go in with the neutrals, but it's going with the yellow today. And each layer does hold approximately a little over one palette, so no more than like I think 28 of this size of shadow. I feel like I wanted to go into the greens next, so let's do that. I can already tell you I'm probably not going to get rid of any of these neutral shades, but we will do a little swatching over there in a minute. Let's pull some out that look similar. Shimmers, we're keeping all of those. Although this one I can't decide if it's more blue or more green. Kind of looks more blue to me. So let's swatch a little bit. And this one. And this one. Okay, close. But the one closest to my wrist is definitely lighter. I'm gonna swatch these three next. This was definitely one of the casualties that I'd be okay with parting with probably. Yeah, see that one looks literally the same. I'm gonna part with that, and we'll swatch these two. I feel like I can keep both of those. One is definitely slightly lighter than the other, and it has like a slight creaminess to it, almost like there's a white pigment in there too. So I really like both of those. But let's swatch these guys. Oh yeah, those are very close. I think I'm gonna keep this one and part with that one. So we're up to 4 declutters. And then we'll just swatch this one for good measure. It's a very blue-green, but I decided to include that one with the greens. So there are all the mattes. And so we have a little more room to work with. I'm going to put these guys that we're keeping down here. And then we will swatch these guys on my hand. That one. Like I said, this one's almost yellowy, but it comes off more green than yellow in my opinion anyways, and that's really what matters. I have more of this blue-green shade here, which is really pretty. Then I have this one, like so. Another more blue-green shade right here. And then lastly, this is like a very light, kind of minty green with a like silvery sparkle to it. It's very pretty, but I assure you it's green, even if it's not coming off that way on camera. Yeah, I'm very happy with that. All right, I feel like let's go through the pinks since they're right here. So I do see a few that appear, you know, pretty similar or similar enough that I'd like to swatch together. I feel like these are all fairly unique shades right here. So let's swatch first these two. Lord knows I don't need two pinks this hot. Well, there's that one, and oh, hello. Yep, they're pretty much the same. I think I'm gonna keep this one and declutter that one. Wait, are those aren't the ones I swatched, are they? Ay. Okay, let's try that again. Let's put these aside so I don't confuse them. Let's swatch these two. This one and this one. One looks a little cooler and one a little warmer. I don't know. Let's swatch these two and then we'll make a decision. That's pretty cool toned, and so is that. Wow, we don't need all of these, that's for sure. I think I like this one best for the cool tones, and this one there, and then I feel like I can get rid of both of these. I can swatch the rest of the pinks for you here. This is a pretty like mid-tone rose kind of shade. Strawberry, maybe. Very pretty. This one, let's test my theory that this is more pink than red. Otherwise we can move it up to the red shadows. Is that more red or more pink? I can't tell. We'll move it up to the reds. We have this sort of a dusty rose shade here. I can definitely tell which of these are getting a little older and which ones were newer purchases, but they're still great shadows. I mean, these are pressed pigments, so there are all of the pink mattes. And now we will quickly swatch the shimmers from the pinks. This one is like your Barbie girl right there. This is a really pretty pink. I believe this came from the first volume. It's kind of a lighter version of the Barbie pink. This one is really cool. I believe this is from the second volume, and it's kind of a duochrome. It's kind of a neutral, but it definitely has a pink shift to it. And then this one, struggled whether to put it in the pinks or the oranges, to be honest. So let's swatch this and decide, actually. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it with the pinks. All right, well, let's do this. Let us do the reds next. These two are very similar, and I love me a good, I would call this like an ox blood color. Yeah, very similar. Okay, the top one has like is a little bit more toward the burgundy side, and I feel like this one's a little bit towards like more of a reddish brown. So I think I will keep them both, but I'm gonna take this one and put it with the neutrals, and this will be our darkest, or one of our darkest reds. Actually, this will be the darkest red. No, this one and this one. I love burgundy eyeshadow, so I could see never parting with these. But they're so similar. I think I will go with this one and let go of this one. We will swatch the rest of these. All right, so this is more of a purpley kind of burgundy shade, or a dark berry, however you want to look at that. This is a beautiful, brilliant red, like beautiful, classic kind of blue-based red. To be fair, I do not use red eyeshadow like ever. But some of these are less red than others, and I don't want to get rid of the reds because I could see myself using them to franken or create some reddish blushes in the future. So that one is more of your warm red, your fire engine red. This is that pinky red one from the pink batch, and I still cannot decide. Let's swatch it, and yes, it is definitely pink. So we're gonna put that back with the pinks over here. This is a very, whoa, fluorescent kind of red verging on orange. I personally would still call that one red. And then this one is the only sort of reddish shimmer that I've found. And yeah, I still stand by that. I think that's like a nice cranberry kind of red. Next, let's just go ahead and do the oranges. Why not? And put these kind of similar looking ones near each other. So let's start by swatching these 3 oranges. That's more like a tangerine, very bright. This one is pretty much a primary, not primary, but secondary orange shade. And let's see where this one falls in. Ooh, that's a nice like creamy yellow. I mean orange. Durr. I really don't see myself using this shade, and because it is broken, I'm gonna go ahead and part with that one. That's those. These definitely look similar. I love, this is probably like my favorite kind of orange, more of like a coral orange shade. Ooh, these shadows are just like butter. Ooh, that's a hard decision. I don't think I'm gonna choose between those two. I love this kind of color of orange, so I'm gonna keep it. And then I'm gonna swatch these to see if I need both. I don't think they're very similar, but again, like I don't use this kind of yellowy, orangey color. These are more yellow for sure. I guess I'll put those with the yellows. Yeah, I don't feel like I need that one. And then this one I actually feel like could go in with the neutrals. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pass on that one and then keep that with the neutral shades. And this is the reason why I wanted to go through and sort of swatch everything before making any decisions on where to put things, because sometimes you get in there and you're like, wait, this isn't orange at all. Look at that gorgeous like rosewood shade. Oof, stunning. And then we have this one, which looks just slightly deeper, maybe more to the orange. But yeah, that one's definitely more rust, whereas the other one, this one is more like rosewood. So I'm gonna keep both of those. All right, this is one of my favorite shades in the orange category. It's more of a peachy, but it's definitely one of my favorites from the first palette. It reminds me of Sydney Grace Apricot. And then this one is from volume 3. Funny how I know these without looking at the bottoms of them. And this is just a kind of a, I mean, it is metallic, but it's sort of a orange. Duh. I mean, but it's literally just like an orange shimmer, very nice. Then we have this one, which has a lot of gold reflect to it and not as much of an orange base. You could possibly put that in with yellows, but I feel like it belongs better here. And then we have this one, which also, yeah, see, that one almost looks more yellow to me. I think I'm gonna put this with the yellows. There we go. I just don't feel like that's as orange as I originally thought. So there we go. Those are the oranges. Okay, here we go with the blues. I think those are different enough, but I just want to kind of go through all the mattes here and put them in order. I feel like these two could be close-ish. So let's just kind of swatch them in the order of what I think is going to be lightest to darkest, starting with this beautiful sort of sky blue. And while I'm kind of a neutral B for the most part these days, I do love me some blue eyeshadow. Let's go for this guy next. I think this is gonna be slightly deeper. Whew. The blue is flying around, yeah. A little bit more vibrant even. I like both of those. I do think I'm more likely to go with this one, so I'm gonna think about whether to keep that one or not. I tend to be pretty particular about my blues. I most prefer periwinkle or navy, just kind of the softer side of blue or the very deep shades of blue, and I'm like that with a lot of colors. I'm definitely like that with purple. I like the very deep shades, and I like the very light shades. So that's a beautiful sort of periwinkle there. This is the one I had to repress, and to be honest, at that late at night, I did not do my very best work. And honestly, I don't know if this is, yeah, that's definitely not going to be worth keeping. It might apply on the eye okay, but it's okay. I'm fine with letting that go. I only had like 4 casualties out of doing 4 palettes, which, if you don't know, is 100 eyeshadows. So I'm okay that I lost just a couple. It's fine. It's not like I don't have periwinkles and other palettes. So that's like a kind of a dark blue. This blue, it has a little bit missing in the middle, and it also has a little bit of micro glitter in it. It's not my favorite shade. To keep or not to keep, that is the question. And then we'll go with this blue green. A little bit underwhelming. Okay, think about that one. Honestly, when I was thinking of all these shadows in my head before I depotted them, I was really thinking that I had a lot more blue between these palettes than I actually did. The navy's nice. I like that. I don't think I'm gonna keep either one of these. I gotta be honest, I'm just not in love with those. So we'll put those to the side. And then we have 3 shimmers. This one is really fun. It also kind of has a titch of a purple, or maybe it's periwinkle, but I really do enjoy that shade. So this is another one that kind of crosses the purple line as well, but it definitely has a very strong blue base to it. I don't know, if I had to think of like a blue shadow that looks like midnight, that is what I would think of personally. And then we have this one, which is kind of a green and blue duochrome, very pretty. And that is that one. So there are the blues. So far we have the most green eyeshadows from the looks of it. Let us get into some purples. There's definitely a few that look like they could be similar. Seeing those 2 for sure, these 3 for sure. That's about it in terms of overlap from what I can see. So let's see which of these we like best. This one has a little bit of micro shimmer in it, and it's almost a satin finish. I doubt I'll get rid of either one of these purples unless they're super similar, because I love this sort of orchid purple, and there's definitely a difference in depth there, so I'm gonna keep both. Now we have these 3. I like all 3 tones. They're very subtly different. Yeah, I'm gonna keep them all. I want to give myself the opportunity to use these and make the decision about what I like best. So I will quickly swatch the rest of the purples here for you. So here are all the purples. And let's do the purple shimmers. This is my favorite shade from the first palette. It's a beautiful lavender. This one I believe was in the second or third palette. I can't remember. But it's a fun purple. This one came out of the third volume. I believe this was the second and this was the third volume, and this is definitely from the fourth volume. And it is a beautiful duochrome kind of toppery shade. Oh, all right, I forgot to zoom back out when my phone rang. Sorry about that, but beautiful. We're keeping all of them. I love purple eyeshadow, even though I don't wear purple very often. So let's put these puppies over here. Oh, I forgot to swatch this one. My bad. This is like a purple blue duochrome that I believe came from the fourth palette here. And again, kind of a light, more topper-like formula. So before I go in and swatch these neutral shadows, I want to start putting some of these into palettes. That is that. Beautiful first layer. I want to see if I can get orange, red, and pink all in one. You can actually get quite a bit in here if you put them like oblong going up and down. So look at that. That's so pretty. All right, yellows and greens. All right, and now I feel like we have room for our neutrals. And then of course we have the blacks and the white. I don't think I need two blacks. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and swatch the neutral mattes. That's a nice sort of buttercreamy. This reminds me a lot of the shade Transition from Patrick Ta Major Dimension, the first palette. Very nice. This is a beautiful rosy, like nude shade. It reminds me a lot of Iced Mocha from Sydney Grace. Kind of a yellowy brown here. Not a shade I use a lot, but it will pair beautifully and create a beautiful gradient with some of these other shades, or it could be like an anchoring shade for an orange or yellow look. That's pretty nice and kind of peachy. Another more yellowy brown, kind of like a caramel shade. This was our sort of reddish brown that we pulled from the red category, I believe. And here it looks more burgundy, but against the reds, it looks more brown. So, you know, kind of a judgment call or whatever. And then these last two are more cool tones. They come from the fourth volume. There's a nice gray taupe and more of a neutral, cool leaning, deep brown, espresso brown kind of color. I want to show you this white real quick before I dirty up my hands again, and then we'll also swatch the two blacks to make a decision. This is the most pigmented white I have ever used from any palette, so I do love this one. Look at that. It's a beautiful brightening shade for the inner corner, or of course it also works beautifully to mix with other shades to lighten them up. So let's swatch these two blacks. I think I prefer the second one, so I'm gonna let that one go. All right, and then these shades I'm gonna go ahead and swatch on my arm as well, just so you can kind of get the subtle nuances or undertones of shades. And a lot of these neutral shades have come from the 4th volume, which is pretty neutral, a little rosy. This is a beautiful rose gold eyeshadow. Beautiful shade. This was the gold we pulled out of the yellows. Not really my kind of gold, but it can be useful at times. This is from the first palette. No, this is not. This is from the 4th palette. The last one is from the 1st palette, but they are both beautiful bronzy shades. The one that I just swatched from the 4th volume is a bit more like rosy, and then that one's definitely more brown. So let's get these into the palette real quick before my battery dies. So these are going on the bottom. I may at some point change and put the neutrals in the top layer, but for now, as we race against the clock or my battery, let's go like this. Okay, so let's take a quick look-see and then we'll wrap up the video. We have purple and blue, orange, red, and pink, yellow and green, and my neutrals. And that's a huge project checked off my list. I will quickly show you the shadows that I will declutter in case anybody in my life, you know, ends up wanting these. I doubt it. I don't really know too many people other than my girl Angela who play with color very often, but you know, it'll be sitting around. And that is it. So that is today's video. Thanks for hanging out with me and doing this project. I feel so much better. This is gonna fit in my eyeshadow drawer so much better than all 4 of those chunky ABH palettes. This is the project all finished. Thanks for hanging out. I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful makeup days. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.